Istoriam timelines consist of a set of records that contain the timeline information. The application supports three types of records: events, notes and headings. We will review in this video the differences between the three and how to use each. First, let's review how to set the record type. When configuring a record in the record management window, the record type is set in the main subview and is the second attribute in that view. You can set the type using the provided drop-down field. You can later edit and change the type of a record if needed, but a change of the type could impact the value of some of the record attributes in order to satisfy the rules associated with each type. Now let's review the differences between the types, starting with events. Event is the default record selection. As its name indicates, it is used with records that are assigned to a specific event. An example of an event record would be the Titanic Atlantic crossing, which started on April 10 and ended on April 15, 1912. Another example would be the Titanic sinking, which happens on April 15, 1912. The majority of the timeline records will be of that type. A start date and an end dates are required for each event, although both can have the same value. Event records are displayed showing their title, the start date and the end date. When both dates have the same value, such as with the event example Titanic sinks, only one date, the start date, will be displayed. The difference between the end and start date is the duration of the event and is displayed as an horizontal line, which length is proportional to the event duration. Notes, on the other hand, are records that do not have a date. Like their name indicates, they are intended to add notes to your timeline. For example, you would use a note record if you want to add a note to the timeline that contains the Titanic dimension, as the ship dimensions is not an event that took place at a specific date. Only the record title is displayed with note records. Although a start date is required with each note record, that date will not be displayed. The date is used only to position the note in the timeline. The end date for the note records is disabled in the record management window and is always made equal to the start date. Finally, heading records are used to provide some form of a structure or a visible separation in the timeline. For example, you might want to create a separation for the events that are associated with the history of the Titanic. Like with note records, only the title of a heading record is displayed. Although both the start date and the end date are required with a heading, neither is shown in the display window. They are simply used to position the record and determine its length. Headings have special characteristics that are unique to them. First, heading records are the only record type for which you can set a background color for the record. All headings records are created as parent records. Heading records with no visible children records, based on the applied filters, are not displayed. This behavior can be changed in the configuration panel. Please review the tutorial video on record hierarchies for more information on parent and children records. You cannot enter a description, locations, photos or URLs with a heading record like you can do with an event or a note record. And finally, the time length of a heading record is determined by the difference between its start and end date. While no heading record will be drawn longer than that length, a heading can be drawn with a shorter length to fit better with the filtered records of the timeline.